Ever find yourself in that spot where someone asks, a simple question in English like, what did you do this weekend?
Oh, yeah.
And your brain just freezes for a second. That little delay while you translate it back, figure out the answer, translate that into English.
That mental back and forth. It's super common, especially when you're pushing towards that C1 advanced level.
Exactly. And that little pause, that hesitation, it really shows you're still relying heavily on translation.
Which is exactly what we want to get into today. This whole idea of thinking directly in English. It's a real game changer.
Now, I know that might sound a bit like, I don't know, some kind of language superpower, right? Thinking in another language.
Yeah, it can seem daunting.
But let's just park that idea. It really isn't some magic ability you're born with. It's a skill, something you can actually learn and develop.
Absolutely. It's about building new mental habits, really. Using the right strategies. So our mission today is to unpack what thinking in English actually means. And crucially, why it's so important for getting truly fluent, especially hitting that C1 standard. We'll look at the hurdles people face and, most importantly, give you some practical tools to start doing it.
Right. So if you want to sound more natural in meetings or just keep up when people are talking fast or, just feel more at home in English,
then you're definitely in the right place.
We're going to lay out a kind of roadmap for you.
Okay, so first things first. What do we actually mean when we say thinking in English? It's more than just knowing words, right?
Way more. It's about that voice inside your head, your internal chatter, making English the language it uses to, think, to process stuff.
It's a fundamental shift, isn't it, in how your brain handles language. Instead of your first language being the default operating system for thought,
English takes over that role, or at least shares it significantly.
Yeah, like imagine you see a table. If you're thinking in English, the idea table just pops into your head as the English word table. There's no step where you think of it in, say, Spanish or French first, and then translate.
I see. It's direct. Concept straight to English word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seamless, automatic. That's the key characteristic.
Okay, makes sense. So we get what it is, but why push for it? What are the actual tangible benefits for someone learning English?
Oh, the benefits are huge. They really impact your fluency in quite a few ways. Let's start with just pure efficiency.
Right, all that mental energy you spend translating back and forth, it adds an extra step to everything. It naturally slows you down.
Thinking directly in English just cuts out that whole middleman process.
Streamlining it.
Exactly, streamlining. So your responses in conversations get quicker. You hesitate less. That little pause we talked about starts to disappear.
It's like trying to run a race carrying a backpack full of bricks versus just running.
Perfect analogy. You can finally keep up the pace in those faster English conversations without feeling like you're always one step behind.
Okay, speed is one thing. What else?
Well, beyond just being faster, thinking in English helps you develop a much deeper connection with the language itself.
Oh, that's interesting, because if you're always translating, you're kind of filtering English through the rules and feel of your own language.
Precisely. It's like looking at a beautiful painting through, slightly tinted sunglasses.
You see it, but maybe not the true color.
Exactly. Thinking in English takes those glasses off. You get a more direct, unfiltered experience of the language's own rhythm, its quirks, its idioms.
Things that often don't translate neatly anyway, like reading a book in the original versus a translation, you just get more of the author's actual voice.
Right. And this naturally leads to your own communication becoming more authentic. You move away from just repeating phrases you memorized.
And start actually expressing your thoughts, your personality more naturally in English. It sounds less like you're reading from a script.
Which feels much better, both for you and the person you're talking to.
And then there's the C1 level connection. You said this is a hallmark of advanced fluency.
It really is. At that advanced stage, fluency isn't just about knowing lots of words or complex grammar. It's about using the language easily, spontaneously, effortlessly.
It's when English stops feeling like this external system you're constantly working at and starts feeling like just another language you operate in.
Yeah, that feeling of ease becomes really noticeable.
And I imagine that does wonders for your confidence.
Absolutely. Whether it's just chatting or something more high stakes like a job interview or a debate, you feel like you're truly living in the language, not just visiting.
Okay, the benefits are definitely clear. Faster, deeper, more confident communication. But let's be real, making that switch, turning off the translator in your head, that sounds hard.
It is a challenge, no doubt, especially if you've been learning for years and that translation habit is really ingrained.
Yeah, I can just hear people thinking, okay, but how do I even start? Or worrying, what if my English thoughts are all messy and unclear?
Or what if they're just wrong? That fear of making mistakes, even inside your own head, is a big one.
And maybe fear of losing some nuance, like thinking in English won't be as precise as thinking in their native language.
All very common worries. People feel like their native language is their safe space for complex thought. These concerns are totally understandable. It is a big mental shift.
So the key thing is, it's not like flipping a switch overnight.
Definitely not. It's gradual. It's about slowly retraining those neural pathways, building new habits.
Okay, so not instant perfection, just starting the process and building up.
Exactly. And the good news is there are very practical things you can start doing, like today, to get that ball rolling.
All right, let's get into those practical strategies. What can people actually do to encourage their brain to start thinking in English?
Okay, one of the simplest but seriously effective methods is just labeling your surroundings.
So literally, as you go through your day, you just mentally name things you see in English.
Yep. See your chair, think chair. Look out the window, think window. Pouring water, water. The goal is to create that direct object to English word link.
Skipping the translation step.
Exactly. You just bypass your native language entirely for that specific object.
And you could start really small with this, right? Like just things in your kitchen or office.
Perfect starting point.
Yeah.
Then gradually expand outwards. Things on your commute, items in a shop, build it up.
Okay, labeling. What's next?
A natural progression from that is describing your actions, still in your head, in English.
So moving from just nouns to simple sentences about what you're doing.
Right. So instead of just thinking kettle, you think, I am opening the fridge, or I am typing an email. You start adding verbs, context.
Moving towards thinking in full sentences.
Exactly. Even simple ones. I am walking, I am reading. You can make them more detailed as you get comfortable, like I'm walking quickly because I'm late.
I can see how that builds on labeling nicely. What about our actual internal thoughts, like plans or opinions?
That's the next big step. Consciously using English for your internal monologue.
Okay, this sounds like where it gets more challenging. Trying to make that little voice in your head switch languages.
It does take conscious effort, especially at first. But think about your daily planning, choosing what to eat, simple observations about the weather.
So instead of thinking in my native language, I need to remember to buy milk later, I try to think, okay, need to buy milk later.
Precisely. Or what should I have for lunch? Or wow, it's really sunny today. Making English the default for those little mental notes and reflections.
It might feel a bit forced or unnatural to begin with.
It probably will, yeah.
Yeah.
But like any habit, the more you practice, the more automatic it becomes.
Got it. Any other tools? Maybe something more visual?
Yes. Good old sticky notes.
The classic language learning tool. So just labeling things physically.
Exactly. Stick a note saying laptop on your laptop, mirror on the mirror, light switch on the light switch, and maybe even short phrases like turn off light.
Provides a constant visual cue. You see the object, you see the English word right there.
Reinforces that direct connection constantly. Leave them up for a week or two. It can really help embed those words.
Okay, cool. What about for people who don't mind talking to themselves a bit?
Well, if you're comfortable with it, thinking aloud in English when you're alone can be really powerful.
So actually saying your thoughts or narrating your actions out loud?
Yeah, like, okay, now I'm chopping the vegetables for dinner, or, right, I need to plan my presentation. First, I'll outline the key points.
Might feel a bit strange at first.
It definitely can. But it does two things. It reinforces the thinking in English process, and it connects it directly to the act of speaking. Plus, bonus pronunciation practice.
True. It bridges that gap between internal thought and external speech. Okay, these are great starting points. It's always good to hear about real people, though. Do we know how learners have actually used these?
Yeah, we do. Take Maria from Spain. She mentioned that the simple act of labeling things in her apartment chair, table, window consistently every day made a huge difference when she moved to London. She found herself reaching for English words much faster in conversation with less of that translation pause.
Wow, so that basic labeling really paid off in real-world speaking.
It really did for her. It helped make those common words much more automatic.
That's really motivating. What about Ahmed from Egypt?
Ahmed's challenge was different. He was a bit of a perfectionist.
Okay. And knew he had to get it exactly right before saying anything.
Exactly. He was so used to crafting perfect sentences in Arabic first, then translating. The idea of having potentially messy or incorrect thoughts in English was really stressful for him.
I can understand that. So how did he overcome it?
He started really small, just allowing himself to have very basic English thoughts, like the labeling and simple action descriptions. Crucially, he told himself it was okay if those thoughts weren't perfect. It was just practice, happening privately in his head.
Lowering stakes. No one else could hear his mistakes.
Right. And gradually, that built his confidence. He realized he could think in English, even if imperfectly. And that eventually helped him feel much more comfortable speaking up in meetings and giving presentations.
Those stories really hit home. It's about consistency with simple things and also just giving yourself permission to not be perfect, especially at the start.
Absolutely. And that perfectionism point is worth lingering on. It stops so many people.
Yeah, that feeling of, oh, my English thoughts aren't sophisticated enough, or I might be thinking grammatically incorrect things.
But here's the thing. Your internal monologue is your private space. It's your mental sandbox. Who cares if you make a mistake in there?
Right. It's actually a fantastic, safe place to experiment and learn from those mistakes without any judgment.
Think about it. Native speakers make mistakes or have incomplete thoughts all the time. Our internal speech isn't always perfectly formed sentences. Communication is the goal, not flawless internal grammar.
So cutting yourself some slack is key. Let go of that pressure.
Definitely. It makes the whole process much less stressful and, frankly, more effective.
Okay, so we've got labeling, describing actions, internal monologue, sticky notes, thinking aloud, and ditching perfectionism. What else can we add to the toolkit?
Another really useful one is mental rehearsal.
Okay, what does that involve? Like practicing conversations in your head?
Exactly. If you know you have an English-speaking situation coming up, maybe ordering coffee, giving a quick update in a meeting, asking for directions.
You run through it mentally beforehand.
Yeah. Play out the likely dialogue in your mind in English. Think about what you'll say, what they might say back. Hi, can I get a flat white, please? Sure. Anything else? No, that's all. Thanks.
It's like a dress rehearsal in your brain. I can see how that would make you feel way more prepared and less nervous when the actual moment arrives.
It builds confidence hugely. Another very simple, practical thing. Use English for your to-do lists or quick notes.
Instead of defaulting to your native language for those little reminders.
Yep. Just jot down, call Sarah, buy milk, finish report.
Yeah.
It's a tiny shift, but it keeps English active in those everyday practical tasks.
Makes sense. Integrates it more deeply.
And if you like visual planning, try making mind maps in English. Use English keywords and branches to brainstorm or organize ideas.
Okay, keeping everything within the target language. What about tech? Can our phones help?
For sure. Lots of language apps have exercises specifically designed to get you describing things or speaking spontaneously in English. They prompt you.
Right.
Plus, simple things like setting your phone's interface language to English, or even just setting your alarms and calendar reminders in English.
Creates more passive exposure and normalizes seeing and using English for everyday functions.
Exactly. Just keeps it front and center.
You mentioned earlier about keeping it simple, especially when starting out. Can we talk a bit more about vocabulary?
Yes, that's really important. When you're first making that conscious effort to think in English, don't try to be fancy. Focus on basic high-frequency words.
The kind of words you use all the time without thinking.
Exactly. Those core verbs get, make, go, have, see, use, and common nouns and adjectives. Trying to access complex vocabulary while also trying to switch your thinking language is just too much cognitive load.
So stick with start instead of searching for commence, or happy instead of elated.
Precisely. Simplicity keeps your thoughts flowing. You can build up complexity later. Right now, the goal is just to get the English thoughts happening smoothly.
Don't let vocabulary searching interrupt the flow of thinking in English.
You got it. And underpinning all of this is the power of repetition and tiny habits.
The classic advice for building any skill. Consistency over intensity.
Absolutely. Trying to force yourself to think only in English for hours on end is likely to be exhausting and unsustainable. Small, consistent efforts are much more effective.
So maybe commit to, say, labeling things for 2 minutes every morning, or narrating your actions while making coffee.
Perfect examples. Find little pockets in your day where you can consciously insert a bit of English thinking. Maybe your commute is your English thinking time, or while you're brushing your teeth.
Weave it into existing routines.
Exactly. Make it almost automatic. And maybe track it. Put a check mark on a calendar. Each day you do your little practice. It helps maintain momentum.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, for something maybe a bit more advanced, you mention an internal English dialogue.
Yes, this takes the internal monologue idea, a step further. It's about actively having a conversation with yourself in English.
Like asking yourself questions and answering them all inside your head.
Pretty much. Start simple. Okay, what's the plan for this evening? Then answer yourself in English. Well, first I need to finish this work. Then maybe I'll watch a movie.
And you can make it more complex over time.
Yeah, you can start discussing ideas, weighing pros and cons, even pretending you're explaining something to an imaginary friend or colleague in English.
Huh. Okay, that could be fun. It sounds like really active practice for formulating thoughts and arguments directly in English.
It really is. It develops that ability to think on your feet in English, which is invaluable for real conversations. You get quicker at finding the words and structuring your thoughts.
Okay, wow, we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's try and bring it all together.
Sure. So the core message is that thinking directly in English, it's not just a nice to have. It's a really powerful accelerator for fluency, especially at that C1 level and beyond.
Right, it makes your speaking faster, more natural, helps you connect more deeply with the language, and boosts your confidence.
But it doesn't happen by magic. It takes conscious effort, consistent practice, and choosing to step away from constantly relying on translation.
And we've laid out a whole toolkit of strategies people can use: labeling, describing actions, using simple words, mental rehearsal, sticky notes, talking to yourself.
And that internal dialogue practice. Plus, remembering the stories of people like Maria and Ahmed progress happens with steady effort, even if it feels slow at first.
Absolutely. So here's the challenge for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Pick one technique from today. Just one. Maybe it's labeling things in your kitchen. Maybe it's describing your morning routine in your head. Maybe it's trying a 2-minute internal chat.
Just choose one and commit to doing it every day for the next 7 days.
Set a reminder, whatever works for you. And then at the end of the week, just notice. How did it feel? Did anything shift, even slightly?
We'd genuinely love to hear how you get on. Let us know on our social media or the podcast page. Share your experience, because we're all learning together here.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you so much for tuning in to this deep dive. We really hope these ideas and strategies give you some concrete steps to take on your English journey.
We'll be back soon with more explorations and tips. But until then, keep practicing. Keep trying to nudge that internal voice towards English.
And watch your fluency grow.
Thanks for listening.